Mit navn er Antonsen. Jeg er museumsinspektør her på ARKEN, og jeg har kurateret udstillingen En kærlig verden med Patricia Piccinini. Vi har valgt udstillingstitlen En kærlig verden, fordi vi synes, at det omfavner Piccininis univers rigtig godt, og selvfølgelig også for at bruge det som en åbning til publikum, når de fra starten kommer ind, at de ved, at her der er budskabet kærlighed. Kærlighed og omsorg, og det er det, Piccinini vil os, og hun vil i dialog med os omkring. Grunden til, at vi har valgt at vise Patricia Piccininis værker her på ARKEN, det er fordi, at vi over en årrække har haft en interesse i at tematisere klimaforandringer gennem samtidskunsten, og det er jo et af de store og vigtige aspekter i Patricia Piccininis kunstneriske virke. Patricia Piccinini er født i 1965 i Sierra Leone i Vestafrika af en engelsk mor og en italiensk far. Så hun kommer fra sådan lidt en sammensat familie. Og da Piccinini var 7 år, der flyttede familien til Australien, og nu bor hun og arbejder i Melbourne. Piccininis kunstneriske formsprog er hyperrealisme, det er skulpturer, det er installationer og det er film. Piccinini skaber det her fabelunivers for os, hvor science fiction og surrealisme mødes i eventyrlige fortællinger, som udforsker nye grænseflader mellem mennesker og andre arter. Det er både biologiske, men også eksistentielle grænseflader. Og man kan sige sådan helt universelt handler det om, hvordan vi lever sammen. Det handler om at høre til de relationer, som vi opbygger mennesker imellem, men også med alle dem, der skal leve sammen i verden. I begyndelsen kan det måske være en lille smule uhyggeligt, eller kan føles lidt farligt eller ukendt, men Piccinini vil gerne vise os, at hvis vi giver os tid til at lære de her forskellige væsener og vækster at kende, så ser vi, at de er omsorgsfulde, de er kærlige, de møder os med milde blikke eller varme smil, og på den måde så folder hun ligesom de her væsener op foran os og skaber et rum omkring dem, som vi kan gå til med nysgerrighed og med åbenhed.
So people often ask me what I'd like the viewer to get from my work. Like, do I really want to freak them out? Or do I really want to scare them? I actually don't. I don't at all. I actually really care about my work, and I really worry that people might not like it, and I often get quite upset that people don't like my work, because what I really hope my work does is to engage the viewer in such a way that they might experience an emotion that they've never felt before. And that is an emotion that we don't even have a name for. And that emotion is one of being originally averse to something, to feeling that something might be challenging to us, or unfamiliar, or unnatural, or slightly affronting, to then warming up to it, to opening up to this. It's a kind of anti-xenophobia, to coming to the realization that the other is not so different, and that there is beauty in the other, and that you might be able to identify with that in some way. And I think I do it in a way that is kind of quite mythological. Like, if I did it in a way that was very realistic, like if I depicted a real situation, I think sometimes people might not be able to identify with it because they can't see themselves as that person or that creature. But because he's a kind of almost myth-like, it's easier for us to connect to an idea intellectually, but also emotionally, in a way that we might not be able to in the real world because it's too overwhelming. And we'd be overcome by emotion. And we wouldn't be able to go there. So what I think I do with my work when I depict these creatures is I'm trying to make space around stories to do with science, to do with nature, to do with connection, that people can sort of insert themselves in and bring their own histories and experiences to that situation. And I see this process between the artwork, my intentions, and the viewer as the three parts of creating meaning. Like, meaning doesn't reside in me or even the artwork. It resides not in the viewer even. Like, it resides in us all coming together. And that's how culture is made. And sometimes this coming together can be a really transformative moment for the viewer. It allows for a space for people to come to a realization for themselves. And this transformative moment can then empower someone to action around all of the ethical implications that my work presents. Like the idea that is it okay to use other animals to make our lives better? Is that a good enough reason? Is it okay to change nature? How far will we go? What's a good enough reason to do that?
Jeg tror i høj grad, at Patricia Piccinini selv ser alle de her væsener og vækster som hendes børn med hver deres unikke egenskaber og fortællinger. Til hver værk er der knyttet en eller anden form for historie fra naturvidenskaben eller fra biologien, som hun så selvfølgelig flytter ind i en eller anden fiktiv fortælling, hvor der opstår noget andet. Hun forskyder ligesom den her fortælling. Det kunne være en uddøende art, som bliver sat sammen med en eller anden fortælling omkring nye genteknologier, og det smelter sig sammen for os. Så hele det her spil med noget, som vi hele tiden kan fornemme, der er noget virkeligt på spil her, eller der er et eller andet, jeg kan genkende. Og så selvfølgelig åbner det vores fantasi og vores refleksioner på helt nye måder.
One of the main parts of my exhibition is a real emphasis on fecundity, which is the potential for life, the production of life. And there's many works that are all about that. That's why there are so many children and mothers, and there are eggs, there are mushrooms. Everything is about a sort of celebration of life. And in fact, it's inspired by nature, which is also what drives nature and evolution, the force of production, reproduction. And I guess as a woman, it's a big part of my life because my body is about reproduction as well. Every month I have the potential to produce life, which is a pretty special thing. So it's a major theme of this show. And in this work, to me, it's a very fecund place. It's full of these mushrooms, and mushrooms are the sexual organs of an organism that lives in the ground, which is sort of a filament-based mycelium that's very important for the environment, and yet we know very little about it. And they're conflated with these bats. And bats are mammals that are the most numerous mammal on the planet. And they're also very interesting. They give birth upside down. They have the baby has to emerge that way. And they're also pollinators. So they transfer seeds from one part of the landscape to another. So I see them as beautiful, life-giving creatures, even though they're vilified and feared a lot. And in this work, they are brought together in this kind of very aesthetic way, with these porcelain works, which are they're sort of multiplied and sort of hanging here, just ready to kind of germinate and explode into life. I made the couple because I wanted to create a situation where the chimeras that I depict had a kind of autonomy. And I'm interested in the idea that we can control the technology and develop it that we use to change nature, but we'll never really be able to control how those animals feel and experience the world, other animals. This work, we have this amorous couple in this beautiful embrace. One of the things about them is that the male, who's very handsome, is allowed to rest on the female's shoulder, which is hardly ever seen in popular culture, that a beautiful, strong male is allowed to be not the active one. And I think that that's in itself is a kind of positive image. But what's really interesting about them is that they have this kind of autonomy, yeah, and the sense that they might reproduce, which is complete loss of control. And in some ways, part of the inspiration came from Frankenstein, which is a beautiful text and a key text for me. And in the novel, Frankenstein creates the monster and is a very bad parent. And eventually the monster comes to terms with that and says, okay, you're not there for me. Well, please create me a partner that I can experience life with. And Frankenstein says, oh, okay. And he does. And when the monster comes to collect his partner, Frankenstein sees him and completely eviscerates the female in front of him, which is the most violent act in the whole novel, which is saying something, because it's like a novel of one violent act after the other. And in fact, after that point, there's no redemption, there's no going back. There's just destruction. I don't think I'm writing this wrong, but I'm just making a work that understands that connection is really important and a deep part of every creature's existence on this planet. The Long-Awaited is, like all of my works, about a relationship. Relationships are central to my work, relationships between us and other animals, between animals and the environment, between ourselves and our bodies, between the natural and the artificial. And this is a relationship between a grandmother and a child, between a human and a transgenic creature, between a natural and an artificial creature. And they're there together and they're sleeping, they're resting, which implies a kind of intimacy, a strong level of trust. The special thing about this work is that the grandmother shows a real kind of fortitude of character in that she is allowing her child, perhaps the child she's always had to look after, Maybe she's been a caretaker, a caregiver. Maybe she's nurtured him, but now he's nurturing her. Maybe she's tired. And to me, that's a kind of definition of love. It's kind of easy to admire people and say, oh, they're beautiful, oh, they're talented. But it's not easy to let people in, to let them know who you really are, and to let them look after you. And that's what she's doing, and I see that as a kind of admirable thing. She's based on dugongs, and dugongs are aquatic herbivores. They're mammals as well, and they are incredible caregivers. They keep their young on their backs for 2 years because they have to breathe, and they're just very nurturing and very gentle. They're the creatures that mermaids are based on. And of course they're endangered because of the warming seas. And this work is talking about, maybe we need to genetically change them for them to be more resilient to the warming seas, or for them to be more useful to us, for example. That's why we generally change nature, for that nature to be useful to us, to make our life more convenient. So it's also about that. It's about that relationship between the creatures that work for us, that serve us, that we are able to change for us, and what that relationship might look like.
Piccininis hyperrealistiske formsprog er sammensat af en masse kontraster, så hun arbejder med silikone og glasfiber. Det kan være menneskehår, harpiks. Hun sammensætter alle mulige kontrastfyldte materialer, og selvfølgelig har en fuldkommen detaljeorienteret praksis, og har et stort studio, som hun arbejder med en masse forskellige virkelig dygtige mennesker i Melbourne. Blandt andet har hun en ansat, der kun sidder minutiøst og sætter hår ned og sørger for, at de her hår stryger sig den rigtige vej, sådan så det netop bliver så virkeligt og levende et univers, at man jo nærmest kan blive i tvivl om man står over for et levende væsen eller en skulptur. Og det er selvfølgelig et helt grundlæggende greb, som hun bruger til at få de her væsener til at blive levende foran os, og vi mærker dem følelsesmæssigt, sanseligt selvfølgelig. Og ja, man kan ikke gå igennem Piccininis univers uden at blive berørt på den ene eller den anden måde.
To make a show like this with all this work involves a lot of people. Of course, all the work emanates from me, but it's a team effort to bring this work to life in such a vibrant way. And I work a lot with Peter, who not only installs this exhibition, but also helps produce all the different works in whatever media that I work in.
This exhibition is probably the largest exhibition Patricia's ever had in Europe. So it's been a real collaboration between the studio and the museum. The museum really knows the space and knows how the audience and the works will flow through the space, and obviously the studio has very strong ideas about what the works need. But some of the works, like the grotto or the field, really don't exist at all until they're installed. They're just a set of elements and an idea. It's only when they come together in the space that you really get to experience them as artworks. And we're very excited about the installation of the grotto, for example, because we've never had the opportunity to really wrap the bat mushroom objects right up and over the heads of the viewers, and that's turned out beautifully. Likewise with the field, which has a real density and atmosphere and a different collection of works from any other installation of that work that we've ever done. So it's really exciting to come to somewhere like ARKEN and be able to put together a show that's works that we know, but also in some ways a completely new experience of those works. It's wonderful.
Udstillingen er relevant af flere årsager. For det første fordi, at den tematiserer en masse store forandringer, som finder sted i vores liv og i vores verden lige nu, og som vi skal forholde os til. Og i centrum for Patricia Piccininis kunstneriske praksis, der er spørgsmålet om menneskets forhold til planeten, til naturen, andre livsformer, og så de her nye teknologier, som på mange måder er ved at forandre den verden, vi lever i. Patricia Piccinini ønsker at åbne en dialog med os omkring en masse etiske budskaber og spørgsmål omkring, hvordan vi lever sammen. Og først og fremmest er det her med, om vi kan oprette omsorgsfulde og kærlige relationer til hinanden, og alle de levende væsener og vækster, som vi deler planeten med. Det er et kernespørgsmål i hendes univers. Det er, hvordan vi lever sammen, hvor hører vi til, og den her forbundethed, en forståelse over den forbundethed, som der allerede er i verden. Vi deler slægtskaber med andre arter, både sådan genetisk, men også socialt. Hun inviterer os til at se på de her ligheder, som vi deler, de her slægtskaber, som vi deler på tværs af arter, og spørger os, om vi kan begynde at fortælle historier ud fra de her ligheder, i stedet for at se på forskellighederne.